Hey, it's Amy here, and I was inspired by some other videos I've seen lately to do a little tour of my record collection, my vinyls. As you can see, I've got them in this cube here, record player on top, and a few have migrated over onto the bookshelf next to the Balzac, but I really have just a small collection here because I prefer to keep my space for books. So I've got a couple of Hank Snow here. Big fan of Hank Snow, classic country. Canadian born, went down to the States and did his thing and had a pretty big impact on Nashville country music down there. But I do enjoy his music quite a bit. And then, of course, we've got some Patsy Cline. This is just a greatest hits vinyl here. And some Stompin' Tom Connors. This is his live album from the Horseshoe. And on here we've got his Happy Rovin' Cowboy, Big Joe Mufferaw, Come Where We're At, and a bunch of other good ones there. Of course, Bud the Spud. Every Canadian kid, at least every Canadian kid who grew up anywhere in Ontario knows Bud the Spud. It's literally a very fun folksy song. About a truck driver with a load of PEI potatoes headed across the country for Toronto. And Sudbury Saturday Night is always a good one. And of course his rendition of I've Been Everywhere. And then we've got Jessie Coulter here. This is my favorite album from her, I'm Not Lisa, and Storms Never Last. And I liked her rendition of Storms Never Last that she did with Waylon Jennings. Then we've got the Brothers Osborne's album Pawn Shop. And next to that we've got Ernest's album Flower Shops. And Ernest is successful in his own right in terms of his music career. But his songwriting is sort of everywhere in country music right now. He's written a lot of hits for Morgan Wallen and a few others. And then, of course, I have his more recent album, Nashville, Tennessee. And this one, Nashville, Tennessee, showed up pretty good. But Flower Shops showed up like that, damaged already. But by the time I got my Flower Shops, they'd completely sold out of the vinyl. So I think I contacted them and they gave me a partial discount. But I kept the vinyl because that was that and there were no more to have. Then we've got, I've got two here. I've got Merle Haggard's Okie from Muskogee, classic of course. And George Hamilton's Canadian Pacific. And the title song there, Canadian Pacific, that one's really fun. That one's been on my streaming playlist for quite a bit. And so when I stumbled across this for 99 cents somewhere last year, I was like, oh yeah, Canadian Pacific. That's a good one. It's about riding the old Canadian Pacific train across the country and just kind of a patriotic song about how Canada is home. And then we've got Hardy's album, A Rock. Hardy is another one of those artists, successful singer in his own right, but has really written a lot of songs for other people. He's written songs for, Morgan Wallen, Blake Shelton, a lot of people like that. And then I've got his album, The Mockingbird and the Crow, which is really kind of unique in that he mixes kind of that pop, punk, rock kind of music with country. The Mockingbird being the country, the Crow being the rock. And in some instances, the genre literally switches up right in the middle of the song, making it a fun one. And then we're going to some more classic country. George Jones's Wine-Colored Roses, which is actually the first vinyl album that I ever owned. I think I picked it up for a quarter. I picked it up for a quarter at the Bible for Missions thrift store as a teenager. and that one's been a favorite of mine. Then we've got some more Waylon Jennings. Here's his Hanging On album, and Heartache by the Numbers, and Only the Greatest. I think this is just a greatest hits album here. And just to satisfy you, this is the older Waylon Jennings. That's certainly not the Waylon Jennings that we think about when we think about Waylon Jennings. Not so clean cut later in his career. And then there's the Wanted the Outlaws album, with music of Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Jesse Coulter, and Tom Bill Glazer. And What Goes Around Comes Around, another Waylon album. And then we've got George Jones, I Am What I Am, and I think this is the one that's got He Stopped Loving Her Today on it. Yeah, it does. And then the Judds. I think that was a quarter somewhere as well. Why Not Me? And we'll just pause this so I can put these back and pull some more. Here's one of my favorite albums of the last few years. This is Noah Kahan's Stick Season. Really good musician from down in Vermont in the States. And next to that, I've got Chris Christopherson's album with the song he wrote, Me and Bobby McGee, and a bunch of other excellent songs that he wrote. Help Me Make It Through the Night, For the Good Time, Sunday Morning Coming Down, which of course was later recorded by Johnny Cash. And next to that, I have Post Malone's country album that came out last August. I loved this one, F1 Trillion. And you can see they've got the album cover truck suspended by a crane. And that was a really excellent album. And next to that, I've got Post Malone's album, Austin, which is also good, but I don't like it quite as much as when he went country last year. And then we've got Miranda Lambert's album, Palomino. Miranda Lambert has become a legend in her own right over the years. And here's her Postcards from Texas, another one of her recent albums. And then I've got some Midland. This is their Let It Roll album. And their On the Rocks that came out a few years ago. And then I've got Casey Musgrave's album, Pageant Material, which was something I listened to back when I was doing my undergrad. Let's see if I can show you without setting this down, but you can see here the album is a bright, brilliant pink. And this was back when that was kind of a unique thing to do. Vinyls were just resurging in popularity about 10 years ago. And most of them were still black, and so it was fun to get the pink one. And of course, Willie Nelson's Stardust album. That one's really good, nice classic. And Willie Nelson's always on my mind. And of course, Red-Headed Stranger. Probably my 3 favorite Willie Nelson albums. And next to that, I've got my Blake Shelton, Loaded. That's his greatest hits album. But this is a greatest hits album that came out, I'd say almost 15 years ago. So it obviously doesn't include a lot of his more recent hits. And then we are getting into the Taylor Swift here. So maybe I'll save that for another video, because Taylor Swift goes from here all the way down to Shania Twain and Morgan Wallen.